Welcome to the 5, 4, 3, 2, 1 technique. Maybe you've heard of it before, maybe this is new to you, but I want to preface this by saying that major events of all kinds, those we consider good, those we considered bad, like divorce or unemployment or moving or having a baby, bereavement, or things like a series of small stressors that build up on one another, like feeling overwhelmed with work or arguing with family. All of these things can cause stress. And there's nothing wrong with us in admitting that we're feeling a little stressed out. Even if you are struggling through the common cold, like I happen to be right now, this is a stressful event for the body. And even though stress is totally common, it is important that we tackle it as soon as it begins to affect our health and well being. When we experience stress, one of the most reported things that clients say happens to them are racing thoughts. And sometimes we focus so much on the feeling of stress that we hardly notice anything else going on around us. When this happens, a grounding exercise can really help to keep your focus on the reality of the present moment rather than getting lost in these stories that we tell ourselves, getting caught up in feeling overwhelmed by our emotions and getting lost in thinking. So in this grounding exercise, that's, the 5, 4, 3, 2, 1 technique, you're going to practice paying deliberate attention to your senses, that being sight, sound, smell, touch, and taste. So that you can do what we call grounding into the here and now. This is ideally going to help you get out of your head and slow down those racing thoughts by connecting to the present moment. So let's go ahead and get started. So step 1, let's tune into 5 things that you can see. But before we even do that, let's take a few calming breaths. When your next inhalation arrives, breathe in for 5 seconds, hold for 5 seconds, and exhale slowly for 5 seconds. I'm going to give you a couple of moments to do that now. Now look around you for 5 things you can see in your immediate surroundings. And you can say these out loud to yourself or in your mind's eye. And for those of you who are like, am I doing this right? It's as simple as I see my computer sitting on my desk. I see a blue highlighter in my cup just beyond my computer. Stuff like that. Now, look around you for 4 things that you can feel, remembering to say them out loud or in your mind's eye. So, for example, you could say, I feel the soft cushion that I'm sitting on. I feel the warmth of the sun coming through the window and beating on my face. I can feel the cool breeze of my air conditioning. I can feel the fabric on the clothes against my skin. You get it. If you can, spend a moment touching these items, paying particular attention to the way the objects feel in your hand or against your skin. Just kind of notice the textures and maybe even the temperature of the surrounding environment. Take a second to do that now. Now name 3 things that you can hear around you, whether it is very obvious, like birds chirping, or maybe it's a little less obvious, like the hum of your heating or air conditioning. Just take a moment to let the sounds remind you of where you are. Again, whenever possible, with all of these steps, feel empowered to say them out loud or narrate them to yourself in your mind. But let's move on to name 2 things that you can smell in your surroundings. When you notice a fragrance or lack thereof, take a big deep breath in and just note its qualities. Is it sweet, spicy, sharp? None of the above? It's totally allowed to um, kind of take the initiative to smell something. So if you want to lift up that arm and sniff that pit, you go get it. But you get what I'm saying? If you don't observe anything in the moment, we can note that and we can find something in the environment to take a big old deep breath in and note it. But finally, name one thing that you can taste right now in this moment. Maybe it's the lingering minty taste of your toothpaste, the meal you just ate, or maybe it's a stale taste in your mouth. Just say it aloud or in your mind's eye. Brilliant. Now, if you have time right now, I encourage you to hang around for this brief reflection. But if not, no sweat. You've done something so powerful to anchor back into the present, and that's really enough. But for those of you who want to take this practice to the next level, I've got a few questions for you. First of all, how do you feel after completing this exercise? And be really honest about this. You may not feel better after the exercise. That's okay. But take a moment to kind of think that through right now. Feel empowered to pause. I am very aware that that may not be enough time to think, and that's okay. You have the agency to hit that pause button, right? But if you're ready to move on, what parts of this exercise did you find the most challenging? And what felt challenging about it? If something did feel challenging, how did you overcome this challenge? And what did you enjoy most about this exercise? And last but certainly not least, on a scale of 1 to 10, 1 being not stressed at all and 10 meaning extremely stressed, how would you rate the stress you feel right now after completing this exercise? And then give yourself a little pat on the back because you just took some much needed time for yourself to address your stress. Not a lot of people do that. And that's why there is a stress endemic in our society today. I also want to remind you that when we come to these practices, it is really in an effort to address the stress that we're feeling at any given moment, not to necessarily change how we feel about that stress. When we feel this urge to feel better, it can get in the way of our healing. We have to move through that stress, feel into it, in order to actually discharge it. Because when we do this kind of bypassing, we inadvertently create this rebound effect where whatever we are experiencing will keep coming back and usually with more intensity. So if I'm feeling really overwhelmed and I come to this practice trying not to feel overwhelmed, then that overwhelming feeling is likely going to come back after I'm done with this practice and come back with more intensity. I'm going to feel even more overwhelmed, right? Or if I'm feeling sad after this practice, I'll probably feel more sad at some point. So I just really want to manage the expectation that this practice is kind of like a timeout, if you will. There are other practices I am happy to guide you through when it comes to feeling in to the sensations of our bodies, feeling in to our emotions so that we're not having this rebound effect. Go ahead and reach out to me if you want to know more about that. You can email me at Daniela at outlookgoodfeelgood.com. That's Daniela with one L, and I'd be happy to talk about what those next steps could look like. Or if you're a current client, what we can do in our next session to more effectively deal with what's showing up in the moment. Otherwise, thank you so much for sharing your time with me. I hope you thank yourself for making the time for yourself, and I hope you have a lovely rest of your day.